And it says we are live, so I'm gonna say hello to everybody. Give them a
Hello.
minute to come
Hello.
in. And do you see me on Instagram? If not, I can just find you as I did last time, right? And here you are. Invite.
Yes, if you invite me.
So, okay, so we have folks coming in. Hello, hello. Ute, come on in.
Hello, I'm there. I'm
Right.
in, I think.
It's
Should be.
Tuesday. It's Tuesday again, in the middle of June. I was talking to my colleague yesterday. Those who don't know, I work at night from Canada, managing my team in Japan. So I always work at night, and we were talking about, we do these weekly meetings, and it's like we just said Happy New Year like a few days ago. It feels like, and we're like at the turning point. We're at the turning the
Wait,
point
wait,
the point of return, right? The
Of
point of
return?
return, or the point of no return. In the year, we're at the halfway point. Like in a few days,
Yes,
we'll be going towards 2024, then away
yes,
from 2022.
yes. I always said, I mean, because this side of the world and this part of the hemisphere, so it's we're going towards the end of the school year. So it's as I always say, it's more busy or busier
Yes,
than before Christmas or before the end of the year, because
that's
everyone
right.
is just frantic
And
to have
it
tests,
is, and we
exams,
are
things.
nearing the end of the school year. My son just told
It's
me
also
next Wednesday is the last day of school. And just speaking of school, we've got teachers
the,
coming in, homeschooling experts coming in. Hello, hello.
the EL teacher and the
Yes,
Golden Creek homeschool. Hi, Golden Creek
homeschooling.
homeschool.
I'd love
Homeschooling.
to. I'd
I
love to
don't know.
get input on homeschooling too. Like it's something that I've always thought about. I have four
Mm.
kids. Homeschooling all four. It just feels like a huge,
Yeah,
huge endeavor.
yes, and
But
there's people who do this.
of course, there's more and more people doing
Yeah,
this.
and can I say something? My children are going to finish school next year. I mean, my daughters. My son already did last year. But if I had to do it again, I would probably try another route. I mean, you always say that maybe at some point. Ciao
Okay.
Francesca, che bello vederti qua sul video. Francesca Bravata is a friend of mine she knows me since I was 6 years old.
Wow! Wow!
Yes, it's a long time.
That's just a few
Ciao,
years
bella.
ago. Ciao, Francesca. Come
Francesca
stai?
dall'Italia, da vicino a Varese.
Ah,
Bello.
of course, of course. Yes.
Oh,
So,
I'm home.
so we're starting off like sort of in random directions depending on the folks coming in. But yes, it's homeschooling, teacher, and the school year coming to an end. All this have to do with academics. And my son will be in 6th grade this coming, September. And we've decided where he will go for high school.
Okay. Oh.
But homeschooling is not like completely off the table.
Seriously? And who is going to homeschool? Are you going to homeschool him?
I'm home anyways,
You're home.
right? And I'm there during the day. There's a few reasons, for homeschooling, but I think the main one is that sometimes I feel like public schools or I mean just normal schools. When I went through it, I felt like there were things that weren't very efficient. Like I feel like lots of things we could just do it in a few months and then play for the rest of the year is kind of what
Yes.
I felt.
Yes.
And that you can really tailor it to the level of the student, right?
Absolutely. And they can really choose from day to day. I mean, there are programs, and there are also countries like here in the Netherlands, you're not allowed to homeschool unless you have a valid reason for it. So
Really?
yes. And
But what do you mean by you're not allowed to homeschool? Like, what does that mean? Like,
because children are supposed to go to a public school or to go
is there
to
like a fine? What happens if you a penalty if you?
It's like a mortal and break school needs to be like that. It's a fine if you don't give any reason, and if you keep them away from school for a longer period of time without excusing and without having a solid reason for this.
Really?
Yes, and
You get fined for that?
Yes, you can get fined. I mean, there is also, I mean,
Oh,
it is to protect the children because
yeah, of
children have
course.
the
I mean,
right of education.
yes,
So
I
that
understand.
yeah, but
But
let's
if
say for certain situations where the children are really struggling and maybe you don't find a school
Mhm.
that meets the needs of the child and of the family or what else, then you're really in a problem in a problematic situation. And
I wonder what it is here, because
hmm,
you have to report to the government that you're homeschooling. But I
yes.
don't think that you need a special reason. Like you say, I'm going to homeschool, I'm going to follow the curriculum, and they say, okay, then he's recorded as educated, having
Hmm.
done the minimal.
Yeah, it's
But
easier.
I wonder if there's fines. Now that you talk about it, I
It's
don't
good
know.
to know. It's good
It
to
is.
know where you live or where you move to, what
Mm-hmm.
is possible, and what are the consequences if, for any reason, you say, I want to take my child out of that school.
Uh-huh.
It can also be that you take your child out of the school and think that there will be another school, and then the other schools are refuse your child
Yes.
for several reasons. And then
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
say, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to
Mhm.
move to another country, split the family? So we had
Yeah.
these situations. I know several families who had these situations, which
I,
is very, very, I find it terrible. So, everything that has to do with the topic that we usually talk about, right? About
yeah.
multilingualism and
Yeah.
raising children with multiple languages and cultures and many skills becomes somehow secondary. And then the other needs of educating our child wherever, with whatever kind of situation, but a situation or a context that is actually helping our child to learn and to develop in the way that the child deserves is not a given everywhere.
Mm.
So sometimes I tend to say, okay, we need to balance this a little bit and to find also a way. And I thought the last week I saw it in different channels and different platforms. People are saying, create the environment that make sure that the environment fits the child, not the child environment. Especially now, these times where everyone has exams, etc., and it's very stressful sometimes because maybe that someone studied very well and very much and knows the stuff, and then there come some questions, and I always say, okay, they asked the wrong questions. They didn't ask the question to know what you know, but they asked the question to know what you don't know, or in a way that tricks you somehow. So creating the environment that supports your child growth. It's a little bit what we are trying to do, right, with our
Yeah, I
children.
mean that's my primary goal. But I do understand that in the community, I mean, they can't custom make it for every child.
No,
But
they
as much
can't.
as possible, as much as it's reasonable, as much as it's, as long as it's in the concept, I think, of education. I think that's important. Rather than saying this is the curriculum, fit in here, like this is the box, get in. I
Mm,
think it's like this is the general direction. You're more like this. We can customize a little bit here for you. We can customize a little bit this way, and make
mm,
a unique program.
mm,
According to the group, the batch of students that you have for that year. I think if that flexibility. I don't know how much you can have, but it may cost a little more to the taxpayers. But I'll be glad to pay for that if you can accommodate a little bit for my child in this direction or that direction.
mm. Yes, I see that some primary schools can accommodate to some extent,
Mhm.
but for secondary schools, at least in my experience, what I see and what I observed, it's just not the case. There are too many, and there is really a
Mhm.
very high pace of following the curriculum and adding something and whatnot, and it's so much on their plate. And also the
Mhm.
step from primary to secondary school or whatever they are pursuing afterwards is so big,
Mhm.
and during a period of time in the life of our children that is so critical because they,
Yes.
they are growing, they are becoming whatever they are becoming.
Mhm.
So it's really a stressful moment, and then you have all these other changes as well. I mean, we always say it's better not to have 5, 6, 7 changes at once, and then actually the system requires this as a given. So I don't know. But you found a school for your son, you said.
Yes. There's a few, private schools around here, and that's the one that's, a good balance of distance from home, of costs, of level of education. The reputation of that school, all that sort of made it a nice choice. So that's what I feel, and he's on board because we've seen a few different schools together, so got his buy-in. So that's we can't give them like all the decisions, but as much as you can bring them into the decision process, and let them see the pros and cons of each school, and you discuss it together. And if he fully objects, then obviously we'll have to do something to make it work. But knock on wood, so far so good. He's happy to go to that school. He's been telling his friends that that's where he's going to be going.
Right.
It's not the most popular school in the region. There's a bigger school that many of his friends are going to go to, but some will go to the school that we're talking about. And my son, he's very good at making friends. He's very good at making new friends. Like anywhere he goes, like instantly he makes friends, and even if it's just for the day, he's just a very, very, very extroverted like kid. So,
but that's great. That's an advantage, I think, in these kind of situations, right? When you have to change a lot, that helps. And as you said, maybe some of his friends are going to the same school as well, so he might find similar settings. Although, the rest is going to change, but it will be a change for you as well as a parent, right? So we are going through changes here. That's
but I'm not so afraid of the change of environment per se. They've changed countries many times. They've been to different schools now. Every time you change your hockey team, or it's a change of this micro environment. So I'm not too afraid of that. I'm more preparing for the teenage years. As much just like when people told me, when you have your child, you're never going to sleep again. You have to prepare mentally for that. Now everybody tells me teenage years are the worst. The hormones going.
No.
So I'm preparing for the worst, hoping for the best, and usually I think it's going to be okay. But I don't know. I don't have the experience. I can only rely on what people are telling me.
We only know afterwards, when they are in their mid-20s. They are not teenagers anymore. So you never seen it.
I've been preparing since like I said, about 2 years ago. In our family with my older kids, from 8 years old, we start these one-on-one sessions every few weeks. We sit down and we communicate. We talk about everything and anything. So that's sort of my way of hedging against miscommunications that people talk about. Teenagers, they have their own minds. They want to do this and they rebel, right? So just
it doesn't need to be. No, I also,
of course, I'm sure.
No, my children also didn't rebel in that way. I don't know, maybe.
That's probably because you're a very good communicator.
I talk too much.
When your son purposely forgets things when he moves out for university and comes back to, has an excuse to come back to see mommy.
I'm not sure he did.
I think you're doing something right.
It was so fun. It was really cute. But yes, no, I think the main focus I always had was really just focus on my children. I don't care what the rest of the world does, because you want to create a safe place for your children to always come back and to know if there's anything happening. The world is not heaven, right? Also the family, not always, but still, at least there is a place where you can be safe and you can say what you want, how you want it, in the language you want it, at the moment you need it. So that's where things need to happen in that way. At least this is my stance on it.
No, it's fully on board with that. And I think people know that theoretically, but how many families can really say that the kids have so much confidence, that the home is a safe place where nobody can hurt them, where, the parents will, do anything they can to protect them.
I think we really need to create that and to make it and to repeat it, not only with words, but really with actions.
That's right.
Also, sometimes it's then staying silent and suffering alongside our children in silence. That is sometimes the most effective way. But I mean,
no, I'm just hoping
come a long way.
That the communication is strong enough that they will, come back and talk to us, the parents, about things that are going on,
Yes, and what you said, we were talking about this before we went live, but it's also important for them. I mean, sometimes you say, oh, you went to dad or you went to your sister to tell these things. And then you say, why didn't you come to me? No, there is no competition, like with the languages, right? So there's no competition about who you are talking to or with whom you are sharing an experience or your thoughts or I don't know, whatever it is. So it's good that there is someone, at least.
That's right. It doesn't matter. We're all on the same team.
Even if it's the dog.
We're all on the same team.
Yes.
You may feel more comfortable talking to mommy. You may feel more comfortable talking to daddy. That's okay. That's okay. Daddy's not going to be jealous of mommy and vice versa.
No.
Daddy and mommy, we have a lot of complementarity, and we talk. Right, so there's no.
Talk.
I mean, once a year, probably.
Yeah. No, I'm kidding. Sorry.
Yeah, but the kids, so like I said, so far so good, and it's just that we're preparing this in advance. We're creating this routine of communication just to make sure that, because you don't want to get there and then start thinking, oh boy, my son has changed so much in the teenage years. They're with their friends all the time. They don't care about the family. I hear that so often. And
but
preparing in advance.
I don't know. I mean, there will always be phases where you want to keep a little bit more your distance, but not talking at all about what's going on in your life or what is happening. I think. Mm-hmm. That's very strange because you have a relationship with that person and an emotional bond. Yeah. So the interest in what is going on, even if it's just a nodding or I'm going to talk this weekend or something, but to make sure that there is this communication, that's regular communication. Even if it's not every day. Okay, it's not every day, but at least every now and then.
My son's going to be 11 in about a month. And, since middle of this year, he's telling me stuff like, I was walking and this girl from my class came up and we walked together, I don't make a big deal of it. Inside, I'm like going, but it's very nice, Yes. Don't want to make a scene out of that. And, but you're happy, and that kind of things, elsewhere, he could, get teased by other people if he talks about, girls, at that age, they're like, ugh. So I'm happy, that he's able to talk to daddy about these type of, sort of sensitive, I guess, material, vulnerability. It is like a showing vulnerability. Yeah. So I love it. I love it.
Whatever
I hope this continues. Forever.
I would just take it day by day. And then
like I said, I hope for the best, but I prepare for the worst.
Yes, but somehow, but in the end, I think, however it turns out, it's okay, unless they are, as long as they don't get hurt and everything that we had the last week, right? Where we're saying, as long as they are safe and and doing well given the circumstances. So do we have any followers somewhere? I see there Noema Herrera and MD89.
Yes, hello folks coming in. Sorry, we were kind of very into our topic. And on the other side with Facebook and YouTube, Twitter, we've got a few folks coming in. I mean, we don't see the names, unfortunately, on this side, but still, shout out to everybody watching on the other platforms. You are welcome to join in and send us some questions or comments on what we've been talking about. We've been talking about now, I guess in the purest form, building relationships with our children, right? I guess that's the bottom line of what we've been talking about. And I mentioned that since about 2 years ago, when the kids are starting at 8 years old, we feel that they're mature enough to understand, relatively complex ideas, concepts. And we start to talk about, what do you want to become when you grow up? Or, how's it going at school, friendships, and like I said, more recently, maybe the boys, the girls, that kind of stuff,
Anything, yes, friendships. Yeah, how you deal with friendships, or people who are maybe friends one day and not friends the next day,
yes,
and these kind of things.
Age, every other day, my son's is that that kid, he's very mean to me and this and that, and then 2 days after they're playing again, and no, it's my best friend. So
yes. As long as it goes like that,
hearing them out, and not making everything a super big deal, not making a fuss out of things, but if you do see problems, maybe we could do this way, that way, and enjoy the wins together. So that's sort of
yes, but also step up for the child, right? If the child is facing a difficult situation and they are stuck, then it's also important that we can take action if they want and if they are up to it.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
It sounds like the easiest thing.
It's not.
And I think it's the thing that I put the most effort into, like really building a trusting relationship with the children. It doesn't mean coddling. It doesn't mean I'm letting them do whatever they want. I think I am a fearful, a feared person in the house. Like the kids, if you ask them who's the scariest person, who's the person that they're scared most of, it'll probably be me.
Oh, okay.
When I say, this, that, they listen.
It's the same with me as well. My husband is much nicer, and then when they say, "Oh, please, can I?" and then he's like, "Okay," and I say, "What? You didn't agree on that?" And
doesn't mean I'm not nice.
So nice. No, yes, I'm much more strict than my husband. That's for sure. I'm not the kind mom or the nice mom. I mean, I love my children to pieces, and they know that, I hope. But it's just I know that everyone needs boundaries, and everyone needs to know how far and not farther than that, and where things are okay and where things are not okay, at least for me or for us, and then we can discuss and we can find out what works.
I had a recent event, and I'd like to know your thoughts on this. How are you with other kids, like not your kids? And then in that category, there's like completely, kids outside of the family, or like their cousins, your kids' cousins. They're family, but they're not your kids.
No.
Do you deal with them differently, or how are you with these kids?
So with my nieces, they are now 30 and 27, if I'm not mistaken. So they are a bit grown up.
Okay.
But I always considered them, and we don't see each other so often, but I always considered them like extended children somehow. I mean, I care a lot about them, but I don't interfere with whatever they do or how my sister does. I mean, every parent is parent of their own children, so
yes, of course,
that's okay. And I learned a lot from them, and I learned a lot from my sister and from my brother-in-law. So With regards to the friends, it depends on who we're talking about. There are
Okay.
some parents where I say, okay, you do it this way, we do it the complete opposite way. And can we meet somewhere in the middle? But what exactly do you mean? Can you
Yeah,
make an
no, I think
example?
no, that's exactly. I think you're on the right track in terms of what we're talking about. You know, like just recently, I took my son to play golf. I mean, just to the driving range, and I took my nephew too. And the nephew, we have two nephews living just next doors, so they're always here. Like they know the code to come in. They're in here. My son's over there, kind of thing, and yeah. So what happened over there was he wasn't behaving too well. I think it was too hot. He was tired. He wanted to go home, and so what he did was he took the whole basket and started hitting all the balls out to the range, and I got mad. Even before that, I was telling him stop complaining. But I say the exact same things to my own son. So there's no difference because I care about my nephew. And if you're with me, if you're in my house, you follow my rules. So that in that sense, so he comes all the time. We're great. We got a great relationship, but he does fear me, kind of like my son would fear me, not like he fears his own parents, because I don't think he fears his own parents in the same way.
He fears you. He's really
Yeah,
scared.
I mean, I don't know if that word is correct, but it is fear. I mean,
or respect.
A good way to say it is respect, but as a kid, I think fear is more the dominant. It's authority, right? It's authority, and that there's different ways of looking at it because in Asia we have more of a vertical relationship, hierarchical relationship with respect to age, with respect to ranking, in society. It's more, I think, more respected, more applied in Asian communities than here, which is more of a horizontal. Of course, it's not completely horizontal, but at least a diagonal relationship, right? Yeah. Like here, I see kids calling their parents by their first name. It's just unthinkable, and where I come from, right? It's just a total lack of respect. But here it's normal, and it's it doesn't mean they disrespect their parents. It's just that's how it is, right?
It's somehow challenging your basic or your baseline of parenting somehow. Where you say, okay, you're not going to.
There's no right or wrong. There's just this way to do it, that way to do it. But if it's in my home, if I tell you don't slam the door, it's my door, but you don't slam the door. If you do it again, I'm going to get mad, right? My kids know it, and I get mad at them every time. Then they stop doing it, and so. But at the same time, I really do have a very good switch, because it's all a show. I'm not really mad. Like I'm not really mad. Like I'm mad at an adult. Right. So, and kids are very good at switching emotions, right? Changing up. 2 minutes later, they're happy, they're jumping around. 3 minutes later, they're crying, and I follow that very, very easily.
Yes.
And we can become very friendly, but when I'm mad, they're very fearful. They still come, and they're always here. Right.
I have a question now, because you were saying they're fearful and you're mad and you say certain things. Are you, as we are talking also about different languages, are the results when you get first thing, are you always, when you get mad at them, do you always speak Chinese with them, or
with
do
my
you
kids? Yes, with my kids. Yeah.
Always. Also, when you're okay, good. So you cannot tell me if there is any difference if you would, I don't know, switch to Japanese or switch to English when you tell them something like stop slamming the door. And what is with their friends that come over and slam the door? Would you,
in the language of the kid?
Yes. Okay. So, I mean, then you would address the child. Because what I saw in myself, when I get really mad at my children, or when they were very small, it was so funny to see, because I was talking, I don't know, in German with them, and then when I would say something in Italian, they would all turn around and say,
no,
now it's serious. And that was funny because if you ask around, people would say, "Oh, when you're very German, that is very strict, and your German mama is very strict." And then you say, "No, I am stricter or I am listen to more when when I speak Italian." Adesso basta, adesso veramente si fa.
It's like lots of kids who go,
It's okay.
when they call you by your full name, then you know you're in trouble.
Oh yes. Oh, my daughter does this because my children, I mean, they have only Limacher as their family name. But when she says Francesco Limacher Ribol, my son knows, oh, I'm in trouble. And she does it, and she's younger than my son. But I find it so amazing when she does this. And I said, okay, I'm the mom, by the way. Okay, I'm not doing it. Yeah, when children take over the parenting side, that is also a fun thing. Or when the children try to parent the parents. I don't know, when you are sick or when you're down or something, and then they bring you your cup of tea, or they say, now you lay down and now you sleep, or they bring you a book or something. That's so nice. Yeah.
Well,
but yes,
lots of times I think we're afraid that we damage our relationship with your own kids or with other kids, like your kids' friends or like in our case the cousins. If you're too authoritarian, like not authoritarian, but if you too strict on them,
No.
I don't think that's the right way to think about it.
No. If it makes sense, if it makes sense, and if you can tell them the reason why you're saying it, then they understand.
That's
and I think always, even when I see that someone becomes resistant, that is usually because the other person doesn't understand why.
Yeah.
Where does this come from, and why should I, or what makes you say this now in this situation? And if you can explain it, if there is enough time to explain it, then 99% of the time they will say, oh, okay, I know where you're coming from. Even if it's
reasonable.
I don't know, if I say I'm tired and just stop doing this, stop arguing because my head is exploding, that makes sense. If I say just shut up, or shut up, you wouldn't say, or be quiet, then they don't know why. So if you give the context, usually people understand much better where you're coming from and why you're asking this, what makes you say these things, also with a certain voice or with a certain language that sometimes. But it's true, yes. So I don't think that there's a problem with being strict. It's a problem with being strict if it doesn't make sense. If it's like an order, sit down, get up. I'm not a parent who gives orders.
Kids have their own thought process, but there's always a rationale. I think it may not be the same one that you would think of, but there's a rationale. If you can understand that, explain things in their own terms or their own concepts that make them understand, they're very reasonable.
Yes. And I find it also very interesting to see what their reasons are. Because I might just miss the point because I just don't understand what their reasons is to be in a certain way, to react, to respond or to not respond or whatever. Because I assume, we very often assume something, we see a context, we think because we are adults and we are experienced that we know it all, we don't. So sometimes it's just a completely different situation that we are confronted with, and jumping into conclusions or judging or something, it's not leading us anywhere. But I'm wondering, is there anyone who has a question? There's Maison Multilingual and Josephine.
Yeah.
Would you like to ask something or to share something about?
And I actually see some questions on YouTube also.
Okay.
Perhaps we can go to that. First, we have Ricardo. Let me put him on the
Ricardo Lopez, right?
Yes.
Hi, hello.
So Ricardo asks us, hello, Ute and Tetsu, father of two here with a question. I am half Spanish, half German, both fluent. Okay. So they're living in Germany with no other Spanish-speaking people. So they spoke 4 years of Spanish with his son.
With the son.
Okay, so we don't know how old the son is. We know that he has
Well,
two,
at least 4 years.
at least, or maybe 3. Maybe he started when in the tummy, like I did.
Okay, I see.
And there's a second part of the question.
Okay, stop, because we connected better in German. He spoke German always with exceptions.
Yeah.
Oh, you stopped speaking Spanish. So you started speaking Spanish with him since he was younger, up to age 4-ish, if I understand you well, right? And then you.
So they're living in Germany. The kids, immersed in German. He was the only one who could pass on the Spanish. So he was doing that for 4 years, but they unfortunately they've stopped. Well, I say unfortunately. It could be fortunately.
Yes, or I mean, if the context is practically too overwhelming for one parent, exactly. I know if you're the only one transmitting that language, and you say, I have also the other one, and actually we click better, we have a better relationship.
Yeah.
If I use the other one, then why not? And I know this is thank you for the question, or for sharing this, because it's something that
many people think about.
Yes, many multilinguals, right?
That's right. There is no correct answer, but there is something that you can choose rationally, right?
And if that works for you, especially if you see that you are better connected. I like that you use the word connecting with him. And sometimes our children choose another language than the one that we plan to speak with them at the beginning.
Here's the third part of his comment.
Okay.
Yeah, now I speak German all the time. So the little one, 1.5 years old, only hears me in German. So here's the thing: the older kid had 4 years of exposure to Spanish, and the younger kid had no exposure to Spanish for all intents and purposes.
Yes.
Right. Okay. The older kid is almost 6. Okay. So,
he's almost 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's not been hearing Spanish from since 4 years old. Is sort of how I assume.
Yes, at least not from the father.
So if he doesn't get any more input, chances are very high that it'll probably just fade away. I don't believe 4 years is enough for it to really stick meaningfully.
It depends on what you mean with meaningfully and deeply. When we moved here, I was talking Italian with my son, and he was 2.5 years old. And then it faded away because I was the only one, and we were talking all kind of other languages. Long story short, after 2 years, my daughters were born as well. So he was 4.5 years old. Yeah, almost 5. When we then decided to speak German for other reasons as family language, but the Italian is still there. So we kept the Italian in storytelling, music.
Okay, but there is exposure.
Yes, and
the point is, if you don't have any exposure.
Little bit. It was not. It was really occasionally. It was not a solid exposure every day doing activities, etc. But it was more in the background. But still, that helped them to keep it alive, even if it was more receptive. But that receptive knowledge of the language helped them even later when they started learning Spanish or French. They said, that sounds like.
Sure.
So that helped. And we then spent holidays in the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland. That helped as well. So they said, I understand more than I thought. So you can, I think even if it's 4 years, at 4 years, he already spoke for maybe 2 years. If he spoke, it was a later talker around 2 years. So he might have already spoken a little bit of Spanish.
But if there's no exposure, like Ricardo specified that he speaks German all the time.
Yes, but.
So if there's no exposure, I'd say it's going to fade away.
I disagree. Because if the exposure...
Good, I like it that we finally have a disagreement.
Great.
We're too much on the same wavelength for everything.
Let me tell you why. Because the exposure not through the parent doesn't mean that there is no exposure at all.
But he says there's no exposure. That's what I'm assuming. I'm assuming 0.
So you're assuming that they don't listen to songs, they don't have friends.
Exactly. That's what I'm assuming. So that's
Okay.
okay. And now the parameters, we may have different assumptions, and that could be the difference.
If there is absolutely no exposure at all, so it's Sahara, so to say, then it's difficult. But I imagine if I see,
he's giving us a little more context here. So they go to Spanish family once a year. Now that's a very good one, though.
Yes, and then they probably have sporadic, but still there. So you see. What I assumed, thinking of Ricardo Lopez rule, with Lopez, there is some part of Spanish-speaking people in the family, maybe. So there might be some, FaceTime, whatever. Maybe they even live there. So that made me also think about that. And in the end, at least I start from where we came from. I stopped speaking regularly or consistently Italian with my children, but there were still the books, there were still the audiobooks, there were still the music, and they would pick out the books that they wanted us to read to them. And sometimes there were the Italian books. So that is what I would also say. There was not a consistent exposure from me anymore, but occasionally. And I guess that's the same for him.
That's something. Okay. No,
it's a little bit.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to agree.
We can agree again.
Oh my God! No, of course, because
we don't have
for it to fade away, you have to have zero exposure for it to really sort of get
a long time
bits and pieces. But if there's always some stimuli that comes in and sort of revives it, every once in a while, then it's almost impossible to forget everything.
Yeah, but even that, I can make an example with Swiss German. I watched Swiss German channel at the TV when I was around 3-4 years old, and then we didn't have the channel anymore in Italy. That was just for a year, and then it was gone. And we only when we drove through Switzerland and we stopped maybe just to have lunch, we were exposed to Swiss German. Otherwise, not at all. But then when I was 18, or we went on holidays sometimes, but when I was 18 and I moved to Switzerland, to Zurich, I understood everything. So it was not a problem. There was not anything, I didn't need that constant input. Okay, it's a very similar language to German, but still also quite different.
Yeah, I think that's also one thing that we always have to consider that not all languages are created equal, in the sense that they're all, there's, if you're in the languages with an alphabet, then languages with like Chinese characters can become extremely difficult because there's just completely different things, right? So that's sort of, or Arabic, if it's now a completely separate group again.
Absolutely, yes. So we never know.
These languages, and if you have French, English, Spanish, then I think maintaining them is a different story.
Yes, it is. I see that Yoshito's there. Multilingual.
Meanwhile, more folks are coming in. So welcome everybody. Shout out to
Flor Mitidieri. Yes.
So many. we can't name them all, but shout out to everybody without losing track of what we've been discussing. Thank you for coming.
So what we were talking, for those who are just connecting now, we are talking about exposure to languages, and if for a certain amount of time our children are not exposed to that language in a consistent and coherent way, then there might be happening something. But as I said, and as Ricardo, who is following us on YouTube, I think, said that his children, 6 and 1.5, are exposed mainly to German, and his older child was exposed to Spanish at the beginning for 4 years. So he's saying now, yes, so the same here, books, contact to family. So there is something, even if it's a little bit, it will stay a little bit.
They go to the Spain every year, I guess. Is what he's saying. That's not insignificant. That's even if it's a week or two, that's like 24/7 for that specific,
Exactly.
period of time. That's big.
That's big, and that's actually what many of the multilingual families I know do. They plan their holidays in a way that they allow their children to have at least some kind of full immersion into the home languages, or the languages that usually are not fostered that much during the year, maybe not at school also, right? So that is, yeah.
Meanwhile, here's Ricardo's question.
Yeah.
So he says, my question would be, what could I do to reestablish Spanish with the big one, so the older kid, without forcing it on him or jeopardizing our connection?
Yes. Well, I would ask the first thing, does he want to? What does he like in Spanish? Is there any context? I don't know, maybe he plays a sport and he likes to talk about it in Spanish, or he likes it because it's a bonding moment with you in Spanish. I don't know. I would ask him. He's 6 years old, and he can tell you what he wants to do. So,
have you ever thought of, slowly transitioning back, like adding more and more Spanish, into the discussion?
Exactly.
You can almost like pretend like it's easier for you to say certain things in Spanish, and then before you know it,
I wouldn't pretend.
Take over.
Yeah, knowing my children, if I would have pretended, they would have said, "Oh no, come on, I see that you're not just. Okay. I don't take you seriously." But what I did with my children was really to tell them, I really like to speak Italian once a week, and then we agreed of having some moments then. Mm-hmm. It didn't last very long because then school started again. But during the holidays, we have other rules about languages. And the same was also with Swiss German, which is, a language that now we speak very rarely. But it's mainly when we are up to it, and that's fine.
Well, here's another question for Ricardo. I think he says he's native or very strong in both languages.
Yes.
So then I guess you can say that Spanish, you do feel stronger in Spanish, or you can express better in Spanish. You don't have to force the kid to speak Spanish back, but make it just a natural thing that you would always speak Spanish. If he wants to, you can tell him that you prefer that he speaks back in Spanish, but you don't force him to. And as you build a stronger and stronger bond in Spanish, his Spanish will strengthen. And if all things fail, he'll at least be receptive, bilingual, in that he'll be able to speak Spanish. Understand Spanish to a very high level. And one day, if he wants to learn it up, it will take him,
he can improve it. Yes. Yeah. I would like to know if he was already speaking Spanish when you stopped speaking Spanish with him and decided to prefer German. And if he was the one who preferred German, it can be that the child preferred speaking German because they are living in Germany, and so peer pressure and everything. You see, it's much easier. It's the most economic solution and everything. That's very often the case.
To a certain degree, that's fine.
Yes.
But what I always mention is if you didn't build that habit already of speaking German, it could have been just Spanish as a habit where, it's sort of weird. It feels weird to speak German with daddy because we've always spoken Spanish. Even though we live in Quebec and they speak 100% French when they're outside, they never speak French with me. It's because it just feels weird. They see me speak French with other people, but they never speak French with me.
Okay, and when you are in yes, and if you are in a group and everyone is speaking French, don't you speak French with them?
I don't speak French to them, but if I speak to everybody at the same time, yes, it'll be French so that everybody understands, including the kids. But if I address the kids specifically, it's usually in Mandarin. Maybe, within that context, I'm addressing them specifically, but I want the others also to hear the message, then it'll be in French.
Okay.
But the kids know that, when I speak a language other than Mandarin, it's a specific situation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. It's normal to speak Mandarin. That's
Yes.
That's the default pathway.
That's the default language. Yes.
Yeah.
But yes, there are social situations where you just speak the language that everyone understands in order also to make them understand I'm not talking about you, or it's everything is okay, and the child maybe also feels better if you use the language of their friends in front of them. But yeah.
So Ricardo is telling us that he did speak Spanish when but only in Spain. So yeah, I mean it's not like he doesn't understand. He understands very well, and that's the minimum that you can expect, is that if you somehow put more and more Spanish into the mix, and eventually ideally possibly speak just Spanish to them. Make it a habit.
Yeah, I would ask him. Maybe now before you're planning to go to Spain this summer, maybe you can ask him, I don't know, 2 weeks or 3 weeks before you go, or 1 week, I don't know how much time you have. You can ask him, can we just get into the Spanish mode, and you can help me to get into speaking more Spanish.
Yes,
and help him, and then
I like that idea. I like that, so depending on him to help you. Make him feel like he's contributing to your well-being.
Absolutely, yes.
That's a strong and powerful motivator for kids, because they want to contribute.
Yes.
So that's a great point.
You can help.
And Yoshito's chiming in with a few things. What you were mentioning earlier, right? That at home we have 1 hour free time just in French. So for some context, Yoshito teaches his kids English and French and I think Spanish in the house, and mommy teaches Korean to the kids, or speaks Korean to the house to the kids.
Yeah.
Right? Does Yoshito speak French?
French.
He speaks French all the time with the kids?
I think he speaks French all the time, doesn't he? But as the children are schooled in English, they might respond sometimes in English, or if he, I don't know.
But then why would why would you have 1 hour free play just in French if you speak French all the time?
We do whatever my sons want, but in French. But that is our normal language of communication, so it might not be the same for the child.
So they live in England, so there's English, and they speak French with daddy, and it's French, and there's Korean with mommy. And Yoshito's half Japanese, for those who might realize that Yoshito is a Japanese name, but it's a conscious decision to not put Japanese in the mix. Right here.
To some extent. I remember that he shared last week his mom was over, and his mom was speaking Japanese with the children, and they were doing some activities in Japanese, which is also, I mean, they also are, they also speak Japanese as far as I understand. I do the same with my sons. That's because it's weird for me.
So I think it's what he's talking about, speaking French with the kids. In public, I think where I was saying I still speak to my kids, but I do, check the atmosphere, so to speak. I'm not gonna shout in Mandarin across the hall if they're at the other end and there's other people.
I wouldn't. No.
Yeah. Even though my kids, they don't seem ashamed of Mandarin. I feel that when I was a kid growing up in Taiwan, I was I felt weird when people talked to me in Japanese, like in front of all my Taiwanese friends, or English. I sort of didn't like when people say, "Oh, say this in English" or "say this in Japanese." So I'm very careful with my kids to not put them in the spotlight in public, but they're doing it. They're screaming across the hall in Mandarin to me. So they don't seem to be, to care at all about that, which is great.
Yes, which is great. Yes, but which is not a given. Not always the situation is like that. That our children are proud also, or are free to speak their languages in whatever context. There are moments where I myself was very aware of that. But I made sure, or I wanted my children not to be feeling that burden that I grew up with. with German. So I said, German is a nice language and everything. You can be proud and you can be happy to be so good at speaking German. And they are. They didn't get it from me, which I'm very happy. this feeling of a bit inadequateness of speaking German. So they are very, very proud and very happy. And
that's great.
Also with their friends who are learning German, it's nice that now they can help them. You know,
is it that the world is different today? I don't know. Like I feel I'm very grateful to the community, like to this country. I think Canada is a very, very open-minded country in that sense. We're very accepting of immigrants, and kids are taught since very young at school, that all races are equal. We should be accepting of all people. And I can understand that it's in like a big city like Montreal, that could be very, very normal. But here, my kids, like, they stand out like the sore thumb, so to speak, like a thorn. But they fit right in. Very popular, very lots of friends. Maybe popular because they stand out, possibly. I don't know. But they have lots of friends and they don't get bullied or teased. At least I don't think.
Yeah, no, that's true. I don't know if the word changed. Somehow, yes, thanks to the internet, people have more access to knowledge, and they become, well, not all of them, but we know some
it's never perfect, but
no, there are some politicians.
When I was a kid, growing up in Taiwan.
Yes, or when I grew up in Italy and everything was in Italian. It's just you try not to stand out and you try to fit in. But I think it's a very common problem or a common issue of everyone growing up anywhere. So maybe you're not playing the right sport to be in that group, be part of that group, or you don't speak the right language or whatever. It can be anything.
But I do think the world is changing, because when I first came to Canada, I was I had bullies. I had people teasing me. Oh, today we're having rice. Like,
oh my gosh!
Wow. But hey, kids are kids. So you don't take that to the grave. Kids are kids. They're just having fun, I suppose. They don't realize
it's really, a fact, but it's something that
all the ways they tease you with the languages too, like Tetsu, ching chang chang tong.
Oh my goodness!
Now I can laugh about it, but in those days that was rough. That was rough.
That is rough. Yes.
And I'm the only one. Like there's like one other Asian kid. They call you Chintak or the Jap or that kind of stuff.
They didn't know better.
Of course. What can you do? I mean, what's the point? Do you fight? I'm not violent. I don't fight. I mean, I probably get beaten up anyway.
Exactly. And that's exactly the situations where I then say, okay, first be safe. And then, exactly. If the moment that you have friends who know you and who can somehow back you up, then you can speak up more and defend yourself, etc.
The great majority of people are not racist. The great majority of people are nice, and they see that kind of stuff. And I had many, many, many more good friends than bullies. I mean, obviously. And that's what gets you through. And I think these negative experiences also are part of me. It forms my character. And it teaches me that life is not fair. Life is not just honky-dory. And those are things. If you don't meet bullies at high school, you're going to meet bullies in the real world.
Exactly.
They bully you in different ways.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
So it's something. It's just part of life. And with the kids, I do ask them, and they do say, sometimes could trip them or something and that kind of stuff. And they don't want him in that game that they're playing or whatever. It is a micro form of bullying, I guess, but I don't make a big deal out of that. And I don't want to, create a sterile, environment for them. They need a certain level of, negative experiences. And I don't think it's just specific to immigrants or those that are different. I think those kids that fit in, that seem to fit in, feel negative emotions on different issues and different topics, and we just don't know.
Yes, we don't know, but it is true that if you look different or if you behave different, if you wear something different than the group, the it group or whatever it is, you stand out. They see it. It's just visually something that's you
it's
see.
Easy attack. Yeah.
It's easier, and people have this. I don't know. Maybe it's something from Stone Age, when they say, "Oh, different." And it's a threat, and I have to defend myself, and I have to be offensive or so whatever. For whatever reason, I never will get this because I don't understand it. Seriously, I don't understand it because I think we are at the level of education and knowledge and whatever. At least I hope for most of us,
but not everybody, right?
Not everybody, but
not everybody.
As long as you can walk away, as long as you can take you out in a safe situation. You don't have to argue with the people.
Fully agree.
Go away, walk around, and just let's agree to disagree. And
somebody puts a knife to you, give them the money, give them whatever you've got, and just save your life. If you have your life, you have a future. There's no need to prove that you're a macho. There's no need to prove anything to anybody. Just stay alive. Right.
Do I have to prove that I am a macho?
Or tough guy, tough woman, Yeah,
we are. I think we all are, and our children are, and everyone. But I mean, you don't have to prove anything in the end. I mean, there are sick people out there, and
unless you're with a dependent, with your kids, or then protect them first. But
Yes. Oh well, we were talking about friends and everything, and then maybe.
Wow. Meanwhile, the inbox is sort of filling up. Sorry, let's run through these very quickly.
Yes, please, because I don't see them. You have to share them with me.
Sorry about that. So we were talking about Yoshito says he has 1 hour free play just in French, and he says. We do whatever the kids want, but in French during that time, even though they're normal language.
We had that before.
Oh, we had that one. Okay. And then his next question, I do the same with my son. That's because it's weird
for me. That was
keeping the same language, right? It's, for him.
Yeah, when you're out and about. So, Thank you, Yoshito.
And he says, I only speak French to my son. My sons tend to play in English.
So
that's similar to what we have here. Like they
speak, here.
Exclusively Mandarin with me, but when they play amongst themselves, it used to be Japanese, but it's getting more and more English. Even though when it's Quebec, this is another mystery. But
he says that they are replying in English, so he speaks French to them and they reply in English. It's a bit like with my children as well.
Okay, that's different. Okay, I thought it was amongst themselves.
But after a while, then they switch to German. At least that's what we agreed on.
They never talk to me in any other language than Mandarin, unless it's for fun,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm realizing that the swear words you got in Canada were the same as those I got in France. They're not very creative, are they? Okay. And Ricardo also has a few more comments that came in since what was the last one? We had his question, and he says, okay, so he spoke Spanish only in Spain. Okay. Oh, here it is. Speak Spanish. But he says that was a big payoff, like we were mentioning earlier. Going back to your, to the target.
That gives a great boost.
That is a huge boost. We do it every year. My kids are in Japan as we speak, and I will be going to meet them in Taiwan in August. So.
Or if they learn a new language at school and then you spend holidays in that country, that gives also great boost.
And also it associates fun with that language, and that's what motivates them.
It's not school. Right. It's not a must. You don't have to read that article, that chapter in the manual, but you can read a menu or I don't know, go to cinema or something.
It makes the language relevant, right? It makes the language pertinent.
Yes.
So
compelling.
The $1 million
I said
word.
it.
$1 million word. You said it first. You win. So Ricardo thanks us. So it is past the hour. Suddenly, my goodness. But but I'm going to put it on the screen, Ute. Maybe we're opening another can of worms.
Please give me your opinion, advice about this question.
Let's
Do, do, re, do, do, re, do, do, re, do, do, re.
do, do, re. Is that like do,
Do, do,
re, mi, fa?
Sol, la, si, do.
Okay, so do, do, re says, dear Ute and Tetsu, I hope you could give me an opinion or advice about this question. Okay, the question is coming up. There's just as a heads up, there's about 4 or 5 more.
Okay.
To this thread, okay?
Let me fasten my seatbelts.
Attache ta tuque. Attache ta tuque, like we say in Quebec.
Ah, ok, j'attache.
Boucler ta ceinture.
Je l'attache.
So, hang on to your hat. I speak 2 foreign languages, English and German. Okay, so if those are the foreign languages, what is your native language? Yeah, and I would like to speak to my future child in one of these languages. Okay.
Okay.
But what is your native language? I'd like to know that too.
What is your strongest language? But I'm unsure which
one.
Well,
I mean, Dodore's native tongue is what I'm interested in. Exactly. But I'm unsure which one should be the better bonding language for our future family. Well, only you know. we can't really know that.
I speak English quite comfortable.
Funnily, I am comfortable speaking English more in English than my native language. Okay, that does happen.
And in all kinds of situations. So maybe also with your partner, you prefer speaking English. Yeah, that's my question for you. So is this an emotional language for you? Is this a love language, so to say?
So more coming up. I have little doubts that I could communicate in English 24/7. My partner can understand the language quite well, but he cannot communicate in this language. This language meaning English?
English.
Okay.
I understand it's English. I'm in love with this language. This language is English. In the case of German, I cannot speak it so comfortably, and I know that I make many grammatical mistakes, and I do not concentrate hard enough. So your question is which language? Is there another comment of her?
Yes, there's more.
However, my partner can speak this language, and we had German ancestors.
Okay. She keeps referring to this language. We're going to assume that's English. Okay. So even though I do not speak so well, both of us have special connection to the German language. Okay, so German or English? That's the question.
What is the third option here? I want the third option. Can I have a third option, please? Because you say that these, what you're saying here, do, do, re, or do, do, re, I don't know how to pronounce it, is that English and German are additional languages to another one that you speak. Which language would be a better bonding language for the family in our case? It really depends. I know people hate this answer, but
what is she saying, though? We have to really be careful here. She's saying bonding language for the family.
Yes, it is for the partner.
Daddy, mommy, and
the child.
Okay.
Yes, but that you don't know. I mean, what is the language that you speak with your partner?
It starts there.
And then it starts there, but it's not the answer, because if you want to pass on your other language, or one that you are most comfortable with expressing emotions, that you are very quick at reacting to, that would be the one that I would choose, or that usually should be chosen in order to speak with the children. Why that? Figure your child is 2 years old, there's a street, the child is just walking towards the street. Are you able to say stop or something in the language that you are using with your child quickly enough? It's just a dangerous situation, I know. But still, if you have to look up words to learn all kind of nursery rhymes or whatever, or words that we use when we connect with others emotionally, if you have to look up these words, then it's not the right language, because it needs to be a language that is very spontaneous and that comes from the heart, so to say. Okay.
By definition, it is a language that you can use emotionally, make emotional connections, and it has to be spontaneous, like you said.
Yes, but it can be that you will choose language yellow to speak with your child. And then because your partner doesn't speak that language yellow, or that because you choose to speak language green with your partner, then that will become your family language that you all can share. Maybe your partner speaks language blue with your child. So that is a combination of all of them. but that is, I would need many more elements to know what other languages are involved, etc. to give you. Oh, with my partner, we speak in our native.
Hungarian.
Okay, so you have the
There you
same
go.
language with your
Okay.
partners, and
Okay.
sometimes in German. Okay,
Oh.
then would be Hungarian.
Did
It's
Dodore tell us where they live?
No, she doesn't. But or yeah,
Is
I
that
assume that you're a woman, but that would be then like a minority language at home. So you would speak Hungarian with your child,
if
and
they
you
live in a
can
different country, right?
wherever,
Yeah.
yeah. But you can then add German and or English at any time later when you want and when the
Yeah,
child is
they
ready
live
or
in
when you're
Hungary.
in Hungary.
So
So okay.
so there's no need to speak to the kids in Hungarian from a language perspective, language acquisition perspective. If you want to focus on other languages, now we're assuming Dodore speaks better English than German, but she's
But she's native Hungarian, she says.
yeah, and we're going to have to assume that English is strong enough for her to have a meaningful emotional communication in order to at least consider these two languages, right? And right now she says German is not so strong. She makes mistakes, and she likes speaking English to a degree that sometimes she feels she's better in English than Hungarian.
Is this so?
That's what she said, right?
Okay.
So these are the parameters that we can,
yes,
measure, I guess, in this case.
Yes. So if at the moment there are many other things to consider as well. So if you can fast forward 10 years, 15 years, would you be okay to speak English only when one-on-one with your child or not? How is it with your extended family? When you're all sitting together, is it okay that you speak English with your child, whereas the rest of the family speaks Hungarian? Because then you need to be consistent to some extent, at least the first 5, 10 more years. But there are many other factors to consider as well. If you move to another place, will you still want to support English, or is there maybe someone else in your life that can provide English? So it's then the person that provides English input on a regular basis, and you help this person by also giving English input, but the main language, the primary language, is Hungarian that you pass on to your child and where you have this emotional bond with. I understand many parents who speak some kind of English. I'm not talking about you now, Dodore, but in general, that say, okay, I can speak a little bit of English. I want to pass it on to my children. I always say, well, be careful not to use that language that you are speaking to a certain level as the primary language. For this reason that we were saying mentioning at the beginning of today's live chat, to have a bond, a really strong bond, and you can only have this really strong bond through a language, by using a language that you really are, you are emotionally, expressive. And where
we can't stress that enough. You cannot trade it off.
No.
It's
because
not one or the other.
Otherwise there is like
most important.
Yes, otherwise there's like a filter, and the children feel this filter. They can sense it, that it's not really the language that comes from from the inside, so to say, that is used by the parent. And there are enough studies who demonstrate this, that it's better really to use a language where you're can be very emotional and spontaneous in.
That's right. I don't know if we're answering her question. We cannot decide for you because we don't know how confident you are in English and German. But it does sound like between English and German, it feels like English is stronger and you're more fluid.
Yes, I would recommend you to maybe watch the interview with Jean-Marc Desvalles. I don't remember exactly when he was our guest, but he was talking about the emotional language, or the language that we should be speaking with our children, and he made some very, very fun analogies about that. He's going to be our guest again later.
Jean-Marc Dewale, I've put that in the comments. Perhaps
Yes.
search for that with Raising Multilinguals Live. You will find his interview.
Yes, let me see. Maybe I have it. Let me just quickly get it so I can share it.
Okay. So meanwhile, I do feel we have to be wrapping up. Final comment here from Ricardo, going back to what we were talking about earlier.
Oh, sorry, Tetsu.
Yes.
Was Dodore on YouTube?
On YouTube.
Okay. I just put it in the chat. No, it's a private chat. Sorry.
It's okay. I'll copy paste that.
I can't post comments.
Really? Oh, here it is. Dewale interview.
Okay, no, can you? I have shared it with you in the private chat. You can copy paste.
Yep, I copy pasted it, and it's out there now. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
So you can find it on YouTube. And yes, Dodore says, thank you very much. Definitely watch that interview. And let me get back to Ricardo with his comment, his final comment, and we'll wrap it up with this. For me, it has become hard to be be spontaneous enough with economy of words in Spanish, because it's my lesser strong language.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, I think the point to consider is, are you strong enough to have a meaningful discussion that strengthens your bond and build a trusting relationship with your kids?
But that's now the Spanish for the 6-year-old son of Ricardo, right?
Yes.
That he wants to reintroduce Spanish. So
yes. Oh, but he's already very strong. He was saying.
Yeah.
Even though it's less strong, it's still very strong.
So it's not the bond. You have it through German, I imagine, and now with the Spanish, you can see how far you want and you can go. But anyways, it's a win-win anyway. So great. Thank you very much. It was amazing to see so many.
Wow, fantastic discussion. Thank you so much. This is why we're here, right? Every Tuesday, we take the time and discuss with our followers. Because you guys are there, we're here, and we definitely want to find a way to contribute and give back. And you will find us here every Tuesday at 1 p.m. North American Eastern Time. And 7 p.m. At the Central European time.
Yeah.
So we will be here every Tuesday, and the third Tuesday of the month is when we which is next Tuesday, by the way, is when we have a guest come in to tell us where we have a formal interview. But the other Tuesdays we're doing this informal discussion, fielding questions from you guys directly. We always enjoy it.
Yes. And next week we are going to have an interview.
Fantastic. Okay, so tune in again. Same time, same channel. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we'll be seeing you again next week. Okay?
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you very much. Grazie.